But yes, take joy in those simple everyday things in life. Evolved from my long-standing personal vision that every day is filled with new things just waiting to be discovered. And it's been quite a ride. And I hope continues for a little while longer anyway with my photography. Originally, the exhibit was simply to focus on that one word, joy, and a selection of images that illustrated that emotion for me and for what I felt might imbue feelings of joy for the people that may see these pictures. Now, I won't get into the semantics or things about, what is the definition of joy. It's going to be different for everyone because it is an emotion. But I took my interpretation. It's my project. So in developing this theme, it also became apparent to me as I was selecting images that, wow, I've got a lot of images. And I said, well, I'll use these for another project. So then I built a folder for some of the design images, and then another folder for the lighting images. And, well, in the end, I had about 18 folders. They're not all in here. There are 8 chapters plus an introduction and a closing, and it runs about 28 minutes. Now, what I can do, what I'll do is an introduction on the chapters, very brief, and my thought was to go through chapters 1 through 4, and then take a bit of a break, so it'd be about 14 minutes or so, and then we can open up some discussion if you have some questions at that time, and then we can carry on with the remaining chapters, or we can just run all the way through. Can I have a show of hands? Any preferences? Would you like to have a break in the middle? Would you like to run right through? Got one going run right through, so we'll do it that way. You're the only one that raised your hand. Good on you, George. Thank you. Okay. And now in the past, I've done a number of essays and built some gallery albums for online purposes on sites like Flickr and P-Base and my own website. And some of those have just been still images, and others have been a photo essay that has been cut to music, and that's what we'll be watching here tonight. And the images came in, and I set them up in the different folders, and for God only knows why, I decided instead of calling them folders, I called them chapters. And so created it like a book format, but then when I got close to the end, I decided, well, I need an introduction for this. So then I built a trailer. So I'm really mixing cross purposes of formats and medias. And so I've got the book style, I've got horizontal, I've got verticals, some film, and you'll see some of the things here, like with the Vision 2020. I like to play with lettering and words, and I'd like to see words actually as images in many cases. Not all words, but just to have some fun with them. And I also, you'll see, some of you have seen my work on social media, and you may have noticed that I don't always capitalize things properly and make up my own words that kind of sound like they could. I don't like using space bars all that much, but I love using exclamation points. So, the problem with that is that annoying autocorrect doesn't allow me to do that without having to backstep and correct it. Now, while each of the chapters stands on its own, I also decided on publishing this as a video format, and this will then be published onto YouTube. And I'll be providing links to that through social media when that's completed. So we've covered the basics. Chapter 1 was joy, and here is a list of those chapters. And the title brief synopsis, a number of pictures, and the time for each of them. So you can see it's about 28 minutes in length. So we'll move on to chapter 2 here. Okay, this is the way that I assembled the initial videos, each about 3 minutes long. I was using a program that's now obsolete as of, I think, this month, is it, George? Rod? It was Pro Show Gold that I was using, and it's a great piece of software for assembling videos. Here's your collection of images here. You can drop them down and pull them, move them around, adjust the length, transitions between them, and edit the audio track as well. And on chapter 2, dualities, let's see, we'll go back here. Whoop, there we go. Whether it's, shadows or reflections in water or glass, silhouettes, or just some odd pairings, symmetry. And in this particular chapter, you'll notice some very different composition techniques. too. In composition, of course, we studied in college back in Winnipeg, and so many rules in composition, but basically more so guidelines. And there's your, again, as photographers, artists, you be familiar with the rule of thirds, or don't place horizontals right in the center or verticals. And I just think I blessed you people. But you'll see I've gone with what I would call a dynamic style of composition in this particular chapter. And with that, there's more things that are closer to the edge of the frame, which creates a bit more tension and edginess, I call it. Now, chapter 3 addresses one of my favorite items, and that's called light. And it's where we are. But I call it delightfully. And again, here's a selection of images. You can run through all of those, and you see the ones that have the green on them are the ones that actually ended up in the presentation. There were some that either did not make it at all, or I used them perhaps in a different chapter. And of course, that's the thing. Any image really could fall into any number of categories or chapters. Where this one, for instance, shows up quite well. You could call that light. You could call it, or categorize it in color or design for its diagonal elements there. But there's so many wonderful ways that light plays upon our world, and it's just, I love it. It's really, I prefer, for my style, more of a softer style of light. Soft, easy clouds, soften the shadows, and if it's right, you can still get some blue sky in the background. And low key, high key, I tend to like tones that are a little bit darker and colors that are a little bit softer, although looking at these images here, they have some pretty intense color on this monitor. Chapter 4, missed one there, went back. 4 is just for fun. And with that one, it's just images that come to me as I'm out and about in the world, and they might be a juxtaposition or just an odd pairing of things, or just my sense of humor. So I hope you can find a bit of fun and some humor in those as well. And then we have, where are we at? Chapter 6.
What about 5?
5? Oh, that was just for fun. I missed 4 is what I missed. There's 4. Five is for design's sake, pardon me. I've mixed them up on my notes here. But, and it made such a nice progression too, because I was talking about light in chapter 3, and then get into chapter 4, and now we have shapes. because we have light. And those shapes, again, everything, you know, this room is pretty much a cube. The door is a rectangle, that's a square. A square has 4 sides, but on 2 dimensions. So when you go 3 dimensions, now you're talking, I don't know, 6 or 8, something like that. The circle can stretch and becomes an oval. And again, when you build that, and that's where lighting is so important, to have some side lighting to show some depth if you're using 3-dimensional imagery. And then, of course, there's all kinds of Latin named shapes. And one of the first ones here actually shows up. It's a form that should get people's attention, but you'll see it at the beginning of the chapter on design. But so many people in Lethbridge, and watch for it. See if you can identify the image that's in the design chapter, and see which image it is that people keep missing in Lethbridge. And we have chapter 7 is simply called awe, another 3-letter word.
Did I miss 6?
Pardon me?
Did I miss 6? What was 6?
6. Oh, you've got 6, yes. Thank you, Ken. Ken is my editor here. Best friend, long. I guess I've known Ken longer than I've known my wife.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Ken and I worked back in Swift Current back in 71, I think that was. I started there. 73? Yes, 73. I started college in 71. But yes, chapter 6 is entitled Look Out, In, Up, Down, and Through. And here I encourage people to slow down, look around, and enjoy. And, you know, looking through things, doorways, windows, between the trees, whatever, it gives you a different perspective on things and actually creates a frame for your photo that might or might not work. But also look up. Ken and I do a lot of looking up when we're out bird watching. It also helps you to slow down too, to try and find those birds. Looking down, obvious, again, with leaves and little creepy critters. And sometimes those creepy critters can give you a feeling of awe, which now leads into chapter 7. A wonderful word, but awe can be expressions of just super thrills and enjoyment, like when Kendall and I went out soaring, gliding out in Cowley. That was awful. That was awesome. Just an awfully wonderful experience. But then when Sandra and I went down, well, to Cuba, I guess it was, we saw alligators and creepy critters and a huge spider that actually came onto my neck. And it was in a reserve, so you think, but that was kind of awful. So that word can be used in so many things, and here are some of the things that, here are some of the things that create a feeling of awe in you. These ones, again, in green will be shown here. Chapter 9. No, there is no chapter 8.
That's the nude part.
That's the nude part, yes. You'll have to wait for that. But since you brought it up, chapter 8. No, actually, I'm going to hold that off because I'm running a little long here. And so we'll talk about chapter 8. Remind me at the end of the presentation here. Chapter 9. That's just before the closing segment. That's color. And here it's titled, Oh, for Color's Sake. And color plays such an important role in our perception of the world around us. But way back in doing photography, it would not reproduce colors. Everything was in tones of black and white and every shade of gray in between. Sometimes a sepia tone or a selenium blue tone, depending on the chemistry and papers that they were using. I didn't start quite back then. They had invented color and processing by the time I started, but the whole aspect of photography back then was analog, not digital, non-binary. It was a physical process, and it was tactile, and it was wonderful. You'd have a roll of film, put it in your camera, and advance the frame manually a couple of times, make sure it's caught on that thread, unlike the time I didn't in Ottawa or in Yellowstone. But most times I did. And then you take it out, and if you're you can ship it off and wait for a week and get your prints back. Or if you're processing on your own in the darkroom, a whole physical, tactile experience. Now it's all done on these things. And it's amazing what can be done. Colors do add a lot to our perception. And Scott, I think it's your wife that does not perceive colors in a normal fashion.
Color deficient.
Color deficient.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine what that would be like. Maybe I am, but that's you know, they now have glasses that can help with that color deficiency. And can you imagine that you were living the world, living your life for, she's what, in her 20s?
27.
And you're seeing colors, sort of, but they're pastels. The brightest signs are just a soft pastel color. And I saw a video of people that tried on these new glasses that can augment your vision. And just imagine that you lived in a world that's just grays or black and white, and all of a sudden you've gone glasses. That's the power of color. But I still say, in all of my shooting and all my years, Mama Nature does color the best. So, on that note, we'll get underway if I can do this properly. Alt-Tab. Yeah. Are we ready to roll here? I guess I should turn down the lights here, should I? Okay, I think there's one back there. Should we turn that back one off as well? Yes, I guess so.
Keep pressing buttons. One.
Oh, shoot it out. There we go.
There's a red one. Should I pull it?
Yeah. Oh, and one here as well.